The galaxy had once been a place of harmony, a bright beacon in the vastness of space. It was a place where many alien races worked together, shared knowledge, and helped each other grow. The Galactic Council, made up of the galaxy's most powerful species, oversaw the peace and prosperity of this vast alliance. But not all was as perfect as it seemed. The Eldari, a peaceful and highly intelligent species, had been a vital part of this council. Their technology, wisdom, and unique abilities were respected by all. For centuries, they had contributed greatly to the advancement of the galaxy, helping to solve problems and create new innovations. Their homeworld, a beautiful planet named Voltura, was the heart of their civilization. But now, Voltura was dying. The Eldari had been trying to understand the cause of a strange energy storm that had begun to form around their planet. This storm was unlike anything seen before. It was relentless, destructive, and seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. At first, the Eldari believed it was a natural phenomenon, a force of nature that they could study and eventually control. But they soon realized they were wrong. The storm was not natural at all. It was a weapon, an ancient technology left behind by a long-extinct alien race. The weapon had been activated by accident, and now it was tearing apart the very world the Eldari had built. With no way to stop it, the Eldari turned to the Galactic Council for help. They hoped that the vast resources and knowledge of the galaxy's other races could save them. But the Council, composed of species far more powerful and numerous than the Eldari, turned their backs. They voted against any action to help the Eldari, arguing that it was too risky and that the Eldari's problem was their own to solve. The Eldari have always been a burden, one council member said, his voice filled with cold indifference. Let them deal with their own fate. The decision shocked the Eldari. They had always been loyal members of the council, contributing to its success and prosperity. They had never expected to be abandoned so easily. As the days passed, more and more races of the galaxy chose to distance themselves from the Eldari's crisis, unwilling to risk their own safety or resources for a species they considered too weak to survive. The coldness of the council left the Eldari feeling alone, betrayed, and hopeless. However, in the shadows of the council's decision, there was one race that could not turn away. It was humanity. The human race, still young in the galactic community, but full of ambition at heart, had always stood apart from the galactic elite. Humanity had faced countless challenges on their own world, from wars to survival in harsh environments. It was this experience that made them different from the others. They understood what it meant to fight against all odds, to defend the helpless, and to never give up. When the humans heard of the Eldari's plight, they were deeply moved. They saw the Eldari as kindred spirits, a race in need of help, and they could not stand by while the galaxy turned its back. Unlike the Council, the humans believed in the value of compassion, in the importance of standing up for what was right, even when it was difficult. A secret group of human diplomats, scientists, and military leaders met in hidden rooms to discuss a plan. They would not ask for permission from the Council. They would act on their own. Humanity would find a way to help the Eldari, no matter the cost. But their task would not be easy. The human fleet was small, and their technology was nowhere near as advanced as the galaxy's great powers. The Eldari storm was an immense threat, and the humans would have to find a way to navigate it without detection. They needed to act quickly, before the storm consumed the Eldari homeworld completely. In the secrecy of their headquarters, the humans began to gather everything they would need for the mission. Engineers to develop technology to protect the fleet, scientists to analyze the storm's patterns, and diplomats to reach out to sympathetic races that might offer aid. It was a small group, but they were determined. They knew they had one chance, and they would not waste it. The galaxy had turned away from the Eldari, but humanity had not. They were ready to fight for what was right, to defend a species that had been abandoned. In this moment, the humans understood that their mission was not just about saving the Eldari. It was about proving that even in a universe filled with powerful, indifferent beings, there could still be hope for the weak, the forgotten, and the helpless. Humanity was willing to fight for them. The decision to help the Eldari was not one that could be taken lightly. Humanity's leaders knew that stepping into the galaxy's politics meant breaking the rules set by the most powerful races. But they also knew that to stand by and do nothing would be a betrayal of their own values. The Eldari were in desperate need, and humanity could not turn away. In secret, a team was formed, bringing together some of the most brilliant minds humanity had to offer. They knew they could not ask the Galactic Council for help. The Council had already made its decision, and humanity's interference would only risk making things worse. The humans would have to act on their own. Among the team was Dr. Ilara Vaughn, one of humanity's top scientists. She was known for her ability to think outside the box and find solutions when others saw only problems. Ilara had studied the storm surrounding the Eldari homeworld for weeks, trying to understand its patterns. She believed that there was a way to stop it, but the technology needed was far beyond what humanity had at the moment. Then there was Captain Thomas Rivas, a seasoned leader in the human military. His fleet had never faced a challenge like this before, but he was known for his ability to lead in the face of danger. Thomas had a deep belief in humanity's ability to overcome any obstacle. He knew that their small fleet would be no match for the overwhelming forces of the galactic elite, but he also knew that the human spirit was a force to be reckoned with. The plan was simple. They would travel to the Eldari homeworld, using a special cloaking technology to avoid detection. The humans had no intention of getting caught in a full-scale galactic war. They just needed to save the Eldari and find a way to stop the storm before it was too late. The human fleet, though small, was fast and innovative. They had developed new cloaking technology that made them almost invisible to the galactic surveillance systems. It wasn't perfect. Nothing was. But it was their best shot. The humans knew the storm surrounding the Eldari planet was a deadly barrier, and they would have to navigate through it without drawing attention. As the fleet prepared for the mission, the team worked tirelessly. Ilara and her team of engineers were busy modifying their ships, installing the cloaking devices, and enhancing their navigational systems. Thomas, meanwhile, prepared his crew for the dangers that lay ahead. He briefed them on the mission's importance and made sure everyone understood the risks. The fate of the Eldari, and perhaps even the future of humanity, rested on their shoulders. Despite their determination, the humans could not ignore the weight of their task. They knew they were taking a huge risk. The Eldari storm was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was unpredictable, and there was no telling how much longer the Eldari homeworld could survive under its constant assault. Time was running out. With the final preparations complete, the human fleet set out in the dead of night, leaving behind the bustling cities and quiet homes they knew. It was a journey into the unknown, a mission that could end in failure or success, but they had no other choice. As they approached the outskirts of the Eldari system, they could feel the storm's presence. It was a dark, swirling mass of energy, constantly shifting and pulsing, as if it had a life of its own. The ships had to stay far enough away to avoid being detected by the storm's energy waves, yet close enough to reach the Eldari homeworld. It was a delicate balance. For days, the human fleet moved silently through the vastness of space, using the cloak to shield themselves from detection. As they neared the Eldari planet, tension ran high. Everyone on board knew how important this mission was, and failure was not an option. Ilara worked around the clock, analyzing the storm's energy patterns and searching for weaknesses. It wasn't just a storm, it was a weapon, and the technology behind it was ancient. There were no clear answers, no obvious way to stop it, but Ilara refused to give up. She believed that there was always a solution, even if it wasn't immediately obvious. Captain Rivas kept the crew focused. He reminded them that they were doing something no one else was willing to do, standing up for those who had been abandoned. It wasn't just about saving the Eldari. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would fight for what was right, even if it meant standing alone. As the fleet finally entered the range of the Eldari planet, the storm grew stronger. The atmosphere around the planet crackled with energy, and the hum of the cloaking devices filled the ships. The crew was on edge, knowing they were getting closer to the heart of the danger. The time to act was almost upon them. The fleet stopped at a safe distance, out of the storm's immediate reach, but close enough to communicate with the Eldari. Their first contact was made. Ilara and Captain Rivas spoke with the Eldari leaders, explaining their mission and offering their help. At first, the Eldari were hesitant. They had seen betrayal before, and they didn't trust easily. But when they heard that the humans were willing to risk everything to save them, their hope was reignited. Humanity's secret mission had just begun, and the fate of an entire species now lay in their hands. The human fleet arrived at the outskirts of the Eldari homeworld, Voltora, just as the sun began to set on the planet's darkened surface. From a distance, Voltora appeared as a beautiful world, with oceans and forests that shimmered under the light of its distant star. But there was something deeply unsettling about the planet now. A vast storm of swirling energy surrounded it, casting a dark shadow over the land below. The storm was no ordinary weather pattern. It was destructive and growing stronger every day. It was as if the planet was fighting for its life. Ilara and Captain Rivas stood on the bridge of the lead ship, staring at the swirling mass of energy. The Eldari had always been a race of peace and wisdom, but now their future hung by a thread. The storm had already begun to tear the planet apart, and it seemed unstoppable. The human fleet, small and inconspicuous, was their only hope. "I can't believe it's gotten this bad," Ilara said softly, her eyes fixed on the storm. She had studied the Eldari situation for weeks, but seeing it in person was overwhelming. The Eldari had always been a proud and noble people, and now their world was dying. Captain Rivas nodded, his jaw clenched in determination. "We're not here to just watch. We're here to save them." The ships moved cautiously toward the planet, staying far enough away from the storm to avoid its violent energy surges. As they drew closer, they could see the full extent of the damage. The Eldari cities were barely recognizable, crumbling under the force of the storm's winds. Large cracks had appeared in the planet's surface, and massive fires burned in several regions. It was a heartbreaking sight, and for a moment, the crew could do nothing but stare in silence. Suddenly, the communication system beeped. A transmission came through from the Eldari leadership. It was time to meet them. Ilara and Rivas, along with a small group of human officers, were escorted to a secure room where they would speak with the Eldari. The room was quiet, and the walls were lined with holographic displays showing data from the planet's surface. As the humans entered, the Eldari representatives, led by their council leader, Kaldor, greeted them with wary eyes. "We were not expecting anyone to come," Kaldor said, his voice low and solemn. "The galaxy has abandoned us." Ilara stepped forward. "We're not here to abandon you, Kaldor. We're here to help. Humanity believes in standing up for those in need. We want to stop the storm, and we'll do whatever it takes to save your people." The Eldari leader looked at her, his sharp features tired from the years of struggle. "You think you can stop it? It is no natural storm. It is a weapon, an ancient force created by a race that no longer exists. No one, not even us, can control it." Rivas spoke up. "We've come to learn about this weapon. We've studied it, and we believe there is a way to neutralize it. We can help you, but we need your trust." The room fell silent. Kaldor exchanged a look with the other Eldari. They had lost so much already, and their hope had been all but drained. Could they really trust these humans? It was hard to believe that anyone, especially a species so young in the galaxy, could solve a problem this complex. Finally, Kaldor nodded. "We have no choice. If you can truly help, then we will trust you. But be warned, time is running out. The storm grows stronger with each passing day." The humans nodded in agreement. They knew how urgent the situation was. They had come this far, and they would not fail now. Over the next few days, the humans and Eldari worked together, exchanging knowledge and ideas. Ilara and her team of scientists dove into the planet's data, searching for any clues that could help them stop the storm. The storm's power source was a mystery, but Ilara believed that if they could locate the core of the weapon, they could disable it. However, finding the core would not be easy. The weapon's energy was scattered throughout the storm, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint its exact location. Meanwhile, Captain Rivas worked with the Eldari engineers to develop a plan to protect the human fleet from the storm's deadly energy. It was a race against time, and the human team pushed themselves harder than ever before. Every minute counted. As the days passed, the storm continued to grow. The energy waves surged with greater intensity, causing tremors across the planet's surface. The skies above Voltura turned an unnatural shade of purple, and the ground shook violently. The planet's atmosphere was becoming unstable, and every moment spent on the surface was one more chance for disaster. Ilara and Rivas gathered with the Eldari Council once again. "We have a plan," Ilara said, her voice steady but urgent. "We've pinpointed a weak point in the storm's energy field. If we can get close enough, we can plant a device that will neutralize the weapon. But it will be dangerous." Calder's eyes filled with a mixture of hope and fear. "How dangerous?" "Very dangerous," Ilara replied. "But it's our best shot." Rivas added, "We'll need your help to get close to the storm's core. We can't do this alone." The Eldari leader looked around the room at his people, his heart heavy with the weight of the decision. Then, with a deep breath, he nodded. "We will stand with you. If there's a chance to save our world, we'll take it." And so, the humans and Eldari began their most dangerous mission yet, to stop the ancient weapon, save Voltura, and prove that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there was still hope. The human fleet, alongside the Eldari forces, prepared for their most dangerous mission yet. They were about to enter the heart of the storm. The swirling energy surrounding Voltura had grown even more intense, sending shockwaves across the planet. The sky was no longer the clear blue it once was. Instead, it was a dark, violent shade of purple. The storm seemed alive, its energy pulse echoing through the very air. Ilara stood on the bridge of the lead ship, staring at the storm's center, a massive vortex of energy. "This is it," she said quietly to Captain Rivas, her voice filled with determination. "If we don't stop it now, it will consume everything. The Eldari, their planet, and anyone who gets caught in its path." Captain Rivas nodded, his gaze steady and resolute. "We knew what we were getting into. We're here to save them. No turning back now." The fleet was small, just 5 ships, all equipped with the best cloaking technology humanity had developed. It would be enough to slip through the storm's outer barriers, but once they reached the heart, the danger would increase 1,000-fold. The energy field surrounding the storm was unpredictable. No one had ever made it this far, and if they were detected, they would be at the mercy of its destructive power. As the fleet neared the storm's center, the crew worked in near silence. Ilara was focused on the readings from the storm, her mind racing. She had found a way to pinpoint the core of the weapon, but getting there would be a different challenge. The storm's energy disrupted most forms of communication and technology, making it difficult to navigate and almost impossible to track their position. Captain Rivas made his way through the narrow hallways of the ship, checking on his crew. He could see the nervousness in their faces, but also the determination. They all understood what was at stake. This wasn't just a mission to save the Eldari. It was a mission to show that humanity stood for something greater than themselves. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the idea that compassion and courage could overcome even the most impossible odds. As the ships entered the storm's outer layers, the hum of the cloaking devices intensified. The energy waves were stronger here, sending jolts of power through the ships. Ilara and her team continued to monitor the readings. They had to be careful, for every move they made could bring them closer to the eye of the storm. "We're getting close," Ilara said, eyes scanning the screens. "The energy core is just ahead. We need to get in position quickly." Rivas took his place at the helm, his hands gripping the controls. "Everyone, brace for impact. We'll need to make it through the next wave. Stay focused." The ship rocked violently as they passed through another surge of energy. Crew members gripped their seats as alarms blared, warning them of the unstable forces at play. But Rivas and his crew remained calm, their training kicking in as they navigated through the chaos. "Almost there," Ilara said, her voice growing more urgent. "We need to drop the cloaking shield for just a moment to deploy the neutralizer. It will only take a few seconds, but if we're detected..." "We'll be ready," Rivas interrupted, his tone unwavering. "Do it." The decision was made. In just a few minutes, they would be at the core of the storm, where they could deploy the device that could stop the ancient weapon. But that moment was fraught with risk. Every second they spent exposed could mean the difference between success and failure. Ilara turned to her engineers, who were preparing the device that would neutralize the storm's energy. It was a complex machine, designed to interact with the storm's power source and shut it down without causing more damage. If it worked, the storm would begin to lose its strength, and the Eldari planet could be saved. But if it didn't, there was no time for doubt. The ship shook again, and Ilara felt her heart race. They had reached the center. The storm's core was visible now, a swirling mass of energy that pulsed with an almost rhythmic intensity. It looked like an enormous eye, watching them as they moved closer. The core seemed aware of their presence, sending out waves of energy, as if trying to push them away. "Now," Ilara shouted. The cloaking device was dropped, and the ship was exposed to the full force of the storm. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze in time. The hum of the engines, the buzz of the ship's systems, even the sound of the crew's breathing. All of it was drowned out by the overwhelming power of the storm. Then, with a sudden movement, the neutralizer was deployed. A beam of light shot from the ship and struck the storm's core. There was a brilliant flash of light, and the ship's systems flickered. Ilara held her breath, hoping against hope that the device was working. The storm responded violently. The core pulsed, releasing a burst of energy that nearly tore the ship apart. The shockwave sent them flying backward, and the crew struggled to maintain control. The neutralizer's beam wavered, but Ilara knew they couldn't back down now. "We're losing power," one of the engineers shouted. "Hold on," Rivas barked. "Keep the beam steady." For what felt like an eternity, the battle raged between the ship's systems and the storm's power. Finally, there was a shift. The energy core's pulsing slowed, and the storm's grip on the planet weakened. The ship stabilized, and the crew exhaled in unison. "We did it," Ilara whispered, her voice filled with disbelief and relief. The storm had been neutralized. Valtora's future was no longer uncertain. But even as the first signs of calm settled over the planet, the humans knew their journey was far from over. There were still challenges ahead, and the galaxy's indifference remained a threat. But they had made a difference, and for the first time in a long while, the Eldari saw hope on the horizon. The storm had been neutralized, but the battle was far from over. As the human fleet drifted away from the now still energy core, a deep sense of relief filled the air. The Eldari homeworld, Valtora, was safe. For now, the swirling chaos that had surrounded the planet had calmed, and the skies were beginning to clear, revealing the true beauty of the world below. The cities, though damaged, were no longer in danger of being consumed by the storm. Ilara stood on the bridge of the lead ship, watching as the final remnants of the energy storm faded into the distance. Her heart was still racing from the danger they had just faced, but there was a quiet sense of pride in her chest. They had done it. They had saved the Eldari, and in doing so, they had proven something far more important. Humanity was capable of standing up for what was right, even when no one else would. "We did it," Captain Rivas said, his voice tinged with disbelief. I honestly didn't think we were going to make it through that. Ilara smiled, but the weight of the mission still hung on her shoulders. It's not over yet. We've stopped the storm, but there's still more to be done. We need to make sure Voltura can recover. The human fleet, now safe from the storm, began its descent toward the surface. The Eldari leaders had already gathered in a safe location, eager to meet with the humans and discuss the next steps. Kaldor, the Eldari leader, had been silent during most of the mission, but now, as the threat passed, his eyes shone with gratitude. "I cannot thank you enough," Kaldor said when Ilara and Captain Rivas met with him. "What you've done is nothing short of a miracle. You've saved our world." Ilara shook her head. "We couldn't have done it without your help. You trusted us when no one else would, and that made all the difference." The Eldari were slowly starting to return to their cities. The damage was extensive, but the storm no longer threatened their survival. The true challenge, however, would be rebuilding, not just the cities, but the trust between the Eldari and the rest of the galaxy. The Eldari had been abandoned for so long. It would take time for them to heal, both physically and emotionally. As the humans and Eldari worked together to provide aid and supplies, a new question began to form in the back of Ilara's mind. While the storm had been stopped, something didn't sit right with her. The ancient weapon had been powerful, but it had also been very specific in its destruction. It wasn't just a natural force. It had been directed. Someone, or something, had intentionally aimed it at Voltura. But who? Captain Rivas noticed the look on her face. "What's on your mind, Ilara?" "I'm thinking about the storm," Ilara said. "We stopped it, yes. But I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't just a random weapon. It was designed to wipe out the Eldari. Someone wanted them gone. I need to know who, and why." Rivas sighed. "I had a feeling you'd say that. I think we all knew there was something more to this. But you're right. We need answers." Ilara set her jaw. "I'm going to find out who's behind this. I don't care what it takes." With that, Ilara began her investigation. She started by speaking with the Eldari scientists, hoping to learn more about the weapon's origins. As they dug through their ancient archives, they found something unusual. Hidden deep in the records was a reference to an ancient race, one that the Eldari had encountered long before the storm appeared. The race, known as the Zarnath, had been a powerful and mysterious group, long thought extinct. According to the Eldari, the Zarnath were capable of manipulating energy on a scale that was nearly godlike. They had vanished from the galaxy millennia ago, leaving behind nothing but rumors and cryptic records. But there was something else that caught Ilara's attention. The Eldari records showed that the Zarnath had once been in conflict with the Eldari over a powerful energy source hidden deep within Voltura. The Eldari had thought the Zarnath had been defeated, but now it seemed that someone, or something, had resurrected their ancient weapon. "What does this mean?" Rivas asked as he reviewed the findings with Ilara. "Are the Zarnath still out there?" Ilara frowned. "I'm not sure, but I think we've only scratched the surface of what's going on here. Whoever is behind this storm, they have a plan, and I'm afraid it's not over yet." As the investigation deepened, Ilara began to realize just how vast the web of mystery was. The Zarnath may have been thought extinct, but there were others who had learned from their ancient technology. And if the storm was just the beginning, what would come next? The humans had succeeded in stopping the storm, but now a new threat loomed, one that was more complex and dangerous than anything they had faced before. "We need to prepare," Ilara said, her voice filled with determination. "The storm was just the first move. Whoever is behind this is planning something bigger." Rivas nodded, his expression grim. "Then we'll face it, together, just like we did before." As the human fleet prepared to leave the surface of Voltura, the Eldari were already beginning their recovery. But for Ilara and Captain Rivas, the real fight was only beginning. They had stopped the storm, But they knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger story, one that would lead them deep into the secrets of the galaxy and into a conflict with an enemy far older and more powerful than they had ever imagined. The days after the storm had calmed were filled with rebuilding and recovery. The Eldari cities, though damaged, were beginning to show signs of life again. While many of the people struggled to find their footing after the devastation, there was a renewed sense of hope in the air. The storm had been stopped, and humanity had played a crucial role in their survival. Still, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much larger. As the human fleet prepared to leave Altora, Ilara and Captain Rivas continued their investigation into the storm's origins. The ancient records of the Eldari had raised many questions, and the more they uncovered, the more uncertain things seemed. The Zarnath, an ancient race thought to be extinct, had reappeared in the galaxy's shadows. Their weapon, the storm, had been designed to destroy the Eldari. But who had revived this weapon, and why? Ilara knew that they needed to find answers, but the more they searched, the more they realized that the galaxy was not as simple as it seemed. The Zarnath were a mysterious race, and their technology was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. If the storm was just a glimpse of their power, then what else were they capable of? "We need to find out where the Zarnath are," Ilara said, pacing the bridge of the lid ship, "and we need to understand why they're targeting the Eldari. There's a bigger plan at play here, and we can't afford to wait for the next storm to strike." Captain Rivas stood next to her, staring out at the stars. "We've already gathered everything we can from the Eldari archives, but we're still missing key information. The Zarnath disappeared millennia ago. We don't even know if they're still out there." Ilara turned to face him, her eyes filled with determination. "We can't assume they're gone. Whoever is behind this storm, they'd been planning it for a long time. We need to go after them, find out who they are, and stop them before they strike again." Rivas nodded, his face grim. "You're right. We can't sit back and wait, but we need to be careful. This isn't just about a storm anymore. It's about something much more dangerous." The decision was made. The human fleet would remain in the region, continuing their search for answers. They would travel to uncharted territories, investigating old ruins and hidden locations in the hopes of uncovering any clue that could lead them to the Zarnath or their mysterious allies. As the fleet moved deeper into the unknown parts of the galaxy, they encountered strange and unfamiliar phenomena. Planets with strange magnetic fields, derelict ships drifting in space with no signs of life, and bizarre energy patterns that suggested something was lurking in the darkness. It was as if the galaxy itself was hiding something from them. Ilara's team worked tirelessly, analyzing the data they gathered from every new encounter. But each new discovery only seemed to add more confusion. They found ancient ruins, but they were always eerily empty, as though the beings who once lived there had simply vanished without a trace. They discovered strange energy signatures, but they led to dead ends. "We're chasing shadows," Rivas said one evening, his voice tired. "Everything we find seems to be another piece of the puzzle, but we're no closer to solving it." Ilara leaned over the console, her eyes fixed on the latest data. "We're not chasing shadows, Captain. We're uncovering the past. The Zarnath may have left behind traces of their existence, but they've been hiding in the dark for too long. We just need to find the right clue." Her words were filled with quiet determination. She knew that they were getting closer, even if it didn't feel like it. The answers were out there. She just had to find them. Days turned into weeks, and the fleet pressed on, exploring more and more of the unknown. But then, something unexpected happened. As they approached a previously uncharted star system, the sensors detected a faint signal, a signal that seemed to come from deep within a dark, uninhabited moon orbiting a gas giant. Ilara's heart raced as she reviewed the data. The signal was unlike anything they had encountered before. It was a repeating transmission, encoded in a way that suggested it wasn't just a random anomaly. Someone, or something, was out there. "We found something," Ilara said, her voice filled with excitement. "This signal, it's coming from that moon. Let's investigate." The fleet moved cautiously toward the moon, unsure of what they would find. As they entered the moon's orbit, they discovered a massive underground structure hidden beneath the surface. The signal seemed to be coming from within the depths of this hidden facility. "This looks like an old base," Rivas said, his voice filled with awe. "But who could have built something like this?" Ilara's mind raced. The Zarnath had been known for their advanced technology, and this base seemed to be exactly what they had been searching for. But the question remained, why had it been hidden? And who else knew about it? The crew landed near the entrance of the facility, and as they made their way inside, they were met with a chilling sight. The base was old, but it had been preserved well. The walls were covered with strange symbols and designs, symbols that seemed to match those found in the Eldari records about the Zarnath. Ilara's heart pounded in her chest. They were getting closer to the truth. The Zarnath were real, and they had been hiding in plain sight all along. But the more Ilara uncovered, the more she realized how dangerous this discovery was. They weren't just fighting a storm anymore. They were facing an enemy that had been lurking in the shadows of the galaxy for millennia. And now, it seemed, they were ready to strike once again. Inside the dark, hidden base on the moon, Ilara and Captain Rivas stood at the entrance of a massive chamber. The air was thick with dust, and the walls seemed to hum with an energy that they couldn't quite explain. It felt like they had walked into the heart of something ancient and powerful, something far older than anything they had encountered before. Ilara's mind raced as she examined the symbols on the walls. They were familiar, similar to the ones they had seen in the Eldari records about the Zarnath. But these markings were more complex, more intricate, and they seemed to glow faintly, as though reacting to their presence. "We're in the right place," Ilara said quietly, almost to herself. "This is it. This is where it all began." Rivas nodded, his eyes scanning the room. "But what exactly is this place? And why was it hidden so well?" Before Ilara could answer, a soft click echoed through the chamber, followed by a low rumble. The ground beneath their feet shifted slightly, and the walls seemed to come alive, revealing a massive console that had been hidden behind the stone surface. "It looks like a control panel," Rivas said, stepping forward cautiously. "But it's ancient." Ilara approached the panel, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea what kind of technology this was, but she knew it was important. The signals they had detected were coming from this very base, and now they were standing at the heart of it. "I think I can access it," Ilara said, reaching out to touch the panel. Her fingers brushed against the surface, and immediately, the console activated, flickering to life. A holographic display appeared in front of her, showing a map of the galaxy, with strange coordinates blinking in red. "This is it," Ilara whispered. "This is the Zarnath's secret network. They've been hiding in plain sight, spreading their influence across the galaxy for centuries." As the hologram shifted, images of the Zarnath began to appear. They were tall, imposing figures, their skin a strange mixture of dark and light. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural energy, and their faces were expressionless, cold. "These beings are not extinct," Ilara said, her voice trembling. "They've been using this technology to hide from the galaxy, waiting for the right moment to strike." Rivas frowned. "But why target the Eldari? What do they have to do with all of this?" Ilara studied the holographic map closely. The coordinates marked on the screen corresponded to a distant planet, one that had never been properly explored by any known race. "The Eldari and the Zarnath were once enemies," Ilara said slowly. "The Eldari fought the Zarnath centuries ago over control of powerful energy sources, but the Eldari thought they had defeated them. What they didn't know was that the Zarnath never left. They just went underground." Rivas stepped closer, his voice urgent. "So the storm was just the beginning. They've been preparing something bigger, haven't they?" Ilara nodded, her thoughts racing. Yes. The storm wasn't just an attack. It was a test. A warning. The Zarnath were testing the Eldari to see if they could survive. If they could, then they were worthy of something much greater. A deep rumble shook the base, and the holographic display flickered. A new image appeared on the screen, showing a large, spherical structure orbiting a distant star. It was unlike anything Ilara had ever seen, a massive, artificial moon. "That's their base," Ilara said, her eyes widening. "It's located in the heart of Zarnath territory. They've been building something that will change everything." Rivas turned to her, his face serious. "Then we need to stop them before they activate whatever they've built." Without wasting another moment, Ilara and Rivas ordered the fleet to set course for the coordinates. They couldn't afford to waste time. The Zarnath had been waiting for centuries, and now they were ready to make their move. The galaxy was on the brink of a new war, and only the humans and Eldari stood a chance of stopping them. As the human fleet raced toward the distant system, Ilara couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The Zarnath were a powerful force, one that had survived the test of time. They weren't just a threat to the Eldari. They were a threat to the entire galaxy. The battle ahead would not be easy, but Ilara was ready. She had fought for the Eldari, and now she would fight for the future of the galaxy. She wouldn't let the Zarnath succeed, not after everything they had already been through. When they arrived at the star system, the fleet's sensors picked up an immense energy field surrounding the artificial moon. It was as if the entire system had been fortified. "This is it," Rivas said. "We found their stronghold." Ilara took a deep breath, her eyes steely with determination. "This is where it ends. We stop them here, or the galaxy will never be the same." The fleet moved into position, preparing for the final confrontation. Ilara could feel the weight of the moment. There was no turning back now. The Zarnath had been waiting for this moment, and so had she. It was time to face the enemy that had remained hidden for so long and end the threat once and for all.